Alright, grab your snacks. It is officially the end of 2024 for Pokemon Go. Now, was it a good year? That's the question we're going to be answering in this video. It's going to be an interesting one because this year's had some really big ups and also some horrific downs. Now, I'm looking at my notes right now. They're currently like hovering on my screen. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 goods and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 not so good. But first we're going to go through the actual year itself and give you some opinions on what we had. So we kicked off the year with obviously New Year's 2024, and then January with the Lustrous Odyssey, Dazzling Dream, Raging Battles, and Taken Treasures took us from January to February, which was also the debut of Varoom. We had the Lunar New Year, Carnival of Love, and Road to Sinnoh, and then the big event, obviously Sinnoh Go Tour, and this was absolutely massive. Now this had a lot of things debuting in it, but we're going to go into it in a bit more detail later in the video. We had Pokemon Presents, Pokemon Horizon Celebration event, then in March we had Horizons, and then Weather Week 2024, Verdant Wonders, which was the return of Zarude. We had World of Wonders taken over, leading us to the end of March, which was Shadow Mewtwo and also Shadow Groudon. An excellent opportunity, which happened on April 1st, which was a crazy event. We'll go into that one a bit later. Sizable Surprises, a personal favourite of mine. Bug Out 2024, Sustainability Week, Rediscover Kanto, Glitz and Glam, and Rivals Week. Glitz and Glam and Rivals Week were the beginning of May, with Catching Wonders halfway through the month with the return of the Master Ball. Ultra Space Wonders, and then to begin June, which is the lead up to Go Fest, we had Stadium Sights, Slumbering Sands, Spelunker's Cove, and Scorching Steppes. Now to begin July, we had the 8th anniversary party, Aquatic Paradise, Inbound from Ultra Space, and then Go Fest 2024 Global Day 1 and Day 2. Now that whole week was absolutely crazy for Pokemon Go. Obviously, we're going to go into that one in a bit more detail in a little bit. We had Ultra Unlock Better Together, Ultra Unlock Strength of Steel, and then to begin August we had Adventure Week, and then we had Adventure Week taken over, which was Shadow Cresselia. We had the World Championships Celebration, which is the Scuba Pikachu, that was a personal favourite shiny of the year, Triumph Together, and then at the beginning of September we had Go All Out, and then Go Big on September 10th, the debut of Dynamax. Then we had Psychic Spectacular, Legendary Heroes, and then to begin October, we had Galarian Expedition, the shiny debut of Galarian Birds, an amazing week. Obviously had that taken over with Shadow Heatran, Magnetic Study, Halloween 2024 Part 1, and then Go Bigger. Go Bigger was the debut of Gigantamax, which by the way only happened on October 26th, so it's only been like less than 3 months now. Then we had Halloween 2024 Part 2 with Gigantamax Gengar, Harvest Festival 2024, simply groundbreaking, Into the Wild, and then Go Wild area. The kind of like the dark horse of this year, because we didn't really know what was happening until they teased it, and it was a good event. I think things they introduced was fun, and they did a couple of cool things as well. Beyond Wild area was after that, with the beginning of December, starting with Max Out Finale, Just My Cup of Tea, Young and Wise, we all know how I feel about that one, Holiday 2024 Part 1 and 2, New Year's, and then we're going to have Fido Fetch on January 3rd, which is probably happening the day before this video comes out, and also you have Univator Global on March 1st. But that's this year recapped in about 4 minutes. 4 minutes in. So let's talk about the goods of this year. Now we're going to go in chronological order for goods, where we're going to start off with Sinnoh Tour as my first main point, which started the theme of adventure effects, which are absolutely insane. Adventure effects probably one of the best things I've ever added, and Palkia and Dialga is probably the best adventure effects we're ever going to get, which is a good thing and a bad thing because we got the best first, but also that means Niantic can't really get any better than what we've just got, because doubling your spawn distance, spawn radius, and also doubling your also freezing time and all of your items is like absolutely ridiculous. That is crazy, and the fact they've done that first means they've kind of peaked early and they can't really go back and do better, which we'll look into the negatives later. Now we have the return of Zarude, one of the best attackers, grass-like attackers in the game. but that's also a negative, so it's going to be also kind of a bad highlight where it's locked behind a pricey ticket. But that does show that rare Pokemon like Zarude can indeed return, so maybe don't max out your Zarude if it's got really horrible IVs. Then we had April Fools, which is such a big surprise event where every single nice, great, and excellent throw became automatically registered as an excellent curveball throw. This was insane for XP. You could get to insane levels within, I don't know, just honestly, if you didn't play that event, you had to be there. It was crazy. Then we had the debut of Biomes, which can also be seen as negative depending on where you are. I see it as a negative sometimes and then a positive sometimes. Biomes have really made the Pokemon Go experience change over time, but the main issue is that a lot of people have seen repetitive spawns over time. Like, I see a Grimer and a Machop and a Magnemite every single day of my life. If I got a pound every time I did, I'd be a millionaire at this point. It can be a bit ridiculous. But we obviously had GoFest. Now, GoFest was incredible because personally I love Alola, and Ultra Beasts are like my favorite thing in Pokemon. So this was super fun for me. But the debut of Necrozma Fusion, the first ever Fusion Pokemon, was also a massive step because we're going to have Fusion next year, well, technically this year, with Kyurem. So, what did we think of Necrozma's adventure effects? They're awful. They are so bad. It's probably one of the worst things they've introduced as like a big feature. They were hyped the heck out of it, and then they brought it out, and they are so bad. I bet half of you just only realize that they have adventure effects because you've probably forgotten because they are so bad. The only good thing that you can get from them is a couple of shiny boosted Pokemon if you're desperate for a shiny, but the Pokemon that appear, you can just find them in regular events half the time or in field research tasks which are available 24/7. But they can summon the Dust form Rockruff, but it's extremely rare for some reason. But I will talk about that in the future and how I would improve it. I personally had Cosmog as a spawn, like a Galarian bird, but you know what, let's just ignore that. Then we had the debut of Dynamax, which is also good and bad. I've seen mostly good for Dynamax and more negatives towards Gigantamax, and we'll get into why in a minute. But Dynamax was really great for players that have kind of finished Pokemon Go. I've got a lot of opinions from people, mostly level 50, that they really appreciate Dynamax because, well, it's just a new thing for them to do, to invest Stardust in and max out. And there was a downside where I got 2 Hundo Dynamax Charmanders to Gigantamax Charizard to come out like a couple weeks later, so I was kind of like bummed out. You know what? Completely fine. Dynamax is fun, and I think to this day people appreciate Dynamax battles, but it's not like a massive feature. People care a bit more about the massive Gigantamax Pokemon because obviously they have really cool shinies and they're really good for trading. And obviously we're going to move on to the next topic before Gigantamax. We're talking about Galarian birds. The shinies came out this year. I'm pretty sure that's probably most of people's highlight. If you managed to get one this year, congrats. I managed to get mine in the first week of the event. It was a Moltres. Honestly, such a cool thing, man. Like it's like a smaller thing, like looking back on it, but just debuting the shiny Galarian birds, which people didn't even think might not even happen for like years, was such a huge thing. I really liked it. And then also got Gigantamax, which debuted, which is both a good and a bad thing because, well, it introduced a massive challenge for players, and some would argue a bit too much of a challenge, which then Niantic are trying to fix, but then also fell back on. But we're going to go into the negatives of Dynamax and Gigantamax a bit later into the video, where we're covering the bad stuff. So, those are all the good things, although I did mention a couple of bad things in there, so I sprinkled in a bit of both, but now we've got the bad highlights. Forgettable events. You know what, I'm just going to go quickly and list an event, you know what, you probably forgot about. Did you guys play, oh, let's have a look, Sustainability Week? I'm looking at it now, and I'm only just remembering what it was, and I'm looking at like the promo image for it, and it has Combi, Trubbish, Drillbur, and apparently the eggs were shiny boosted, but they were just bad. Oh, Bug Out 2024, I'm looking at that now. Horrible event, no new bug type, no new shiny for bugs. Nimble was literally right there. They debuted the Nimble shiny by accident earlier in the year, but they didn't bring it. Very, very weird. What other forgettable events were there? Raging Battles, Dazzling Dream, just honestly, man, there were some bad events this year. Some really, really horrible ones, like, I don't know, Stadium Site, Spelunker's Cove. I just want to point out, oh, Scorcher's Steps as well. That was the debut of Shania La Vesta, and still, the spawns for that was so unforgettable. Forgettable. But, yeah, Stadium Sites, all of the lead-up events to GoFest were really bad. They were, like, really, really horrible. The Horizons event at Captain Pikachu, I remember that one a bit. Carnival of Love, don't remember that one. Lunar New Year, forgettable again. But yeah, forgettable events. PvP exploits and hackers in PvP this year reached almost an all-time high. Might have reached an all-time high. I don't like to have the actual stats for that, but I've just been talking to a lot of people that do PvP semi-professionally and also all the time. I currently don't do PvP at all because I find it very tedious and boring. But I'm going to be trying to get to Elite for a video in the future, so getting a bit nervous for that. Spoofing, massive issue. Have Niantic done anything about it? Kinda. A little bit. But realistically, they can't really do too much about spoofing, and honestly, I've seen like a massive rise in spoofing-based Pokemon Go YouTubers this year, which like, you can only go through your opinion on it. Some people will watch it, some people will go like, ew, I don't like it. Honestly, I draw the line in the sand where if they don't actively brag about what they've got, right? Because I've seen people go on social media and just post like 7 Shundos in one day, for example, and then another person posts not bragging about it. So it's like someone's like actively gloating about their Shundos, and then someone else is like being more low-key about it. Very interesting. It's a bit of an interesting topic because it definitely spikes crazily during in-person GoFest events where there will be loads of spoofers. I saw like a video with like JT Valor, and his raids would fill up instantly, even though like he would like look around and there's no one around him. They're just spoofers. But that's probably an issue every year, but I'm just gonna put that as a bad highlight because whatever. Okay. April. Avatar updates. If you guys remember, there was probably one of the worst things they've ever implemented into the game, and they still haven't gone back on it, even though there's been some horrible comments about it. There's been review bombs on the App Store. It's been ridiculous. So they changed the avatars. They look horrific now. My character's now wearing a mask, and you know what? He has never taken off the mask, and it's going to stay like that forever. It's honestly one of the worst things they've ever done, and even for like a couple months afterwards, they still advertised cosmetics with the old avatars, which is kind of funny because it's either they had graphics prepared beforehand or they just knew the avatars were ugly. So, but also there was just a bunch of like horrific comments from not very nice people, like really nasty transphobic comments, but we're not going to get into that. That's a bit more political. Dynamax is in the negatives here because, well, might not be accessible for you because, well, let's just start off, I don't know, Dynamax Cryonicle, random example. It's difficult. I managed to beat it solo barely, and that was with some Gigantamax Pokemon. Rural players are just neglected completely, especially with Gigantamax. Who can do that? My group of maybe 40 to 50 people, right? Well, I always do them out during the weekends when I do Pokemon Go events. This was crazy. We tried to beat a Gigantamax raid, failed several times. We only managed to beat it if we got the right moveset. That shouldn't be a thing. You shouldn't have to wait for a certain moveset to have a chance at beating something. I like the tactics involved in it, don't get me wrong. I do like, oh, this guy be a healer, this guy be a shielder. I think if you coordinate, you can have a really fun time. But yeah, for the majority of people, Gigantamax is a negative, but there are a lot of ways that they can improve it. Maybe doing some backwards compatibility with like Dynamax, Gigantamax, so maybe you beat a Gigantamax raid, and then you use that Gigantamax particles on, I don't know, onto your Dynamax Pokemon, so you can make them into a Gigantamax Pokemon, if you know what I mean. But here's the main issue. Now, this is coming from my uncle, level 50 player, playing since 2016, so he's kind of like my Pokemon Go sensei, right? His comment was that he's not very interested in it because they don't really contribute to raids, and I think that's such a fair point. And a lot of players have told me this, where it's not very inclusive. Dynamax and Gigantamax are in a very small bubble right now. where there's not many Dynamax things you can do. Like, realistically, why are you going to use your Gigantamax Charizard on this little Dynamax Grookey if you can just use your little Charmander to begin with? Like, what's the point of investing the Stardust if you've got the Grookey to begin, if you've got the little Charmander to begin with? You can just solo it that way. I think the way they can improve this, and also make other Pokemon more meta-relevant, which would be super fun, implement it into PvP somehow. That would be really fun. Or, and also, do it in raids. Do it like a Mega Revolution. Make it so they can stay in that form, for example. Also, side tangent, can we just make it so you can always have a Dynamax or a Mega Pokemon as your buddy? Just like, if you put them as your buddy, there's a chance you can just like Mega Evolve them forever. Not like for the bonuses, but like just so you can have it as Mega Evolve by your side forever without having to spend the energy or Dynamax them all the time. So, I would love that. Putting them in raids and having like a Dynamax button or like a G-Max move. It would make Charizard better, it would make Venusaur better, it would make Toxtricity useful in raids because it's only useful in Gigantamax raids right now. So it makes me wonder what they're going to do with Gigantamax Pikachu, which won't be useful at all in raids because they don't boost the CP of the Pokemon. It's going to be really interesting because they've already started off with the starters and not like the mini ones like the Eevee and the Pikachu, who have their own Gigantamax forms. It's going to be really weird how they're going to approach that in 2025. They might not even add them to the game. I'm pretty sure they will though, as like a little event. But it'll be interesting. I've put forgettable events twice for some reason. I'm just going to completely ignore that note. But I've put something, it's not very controversial, it's pretty well known, but more tickets than before. We have had so many tickets this year. Tickets for events, tickets for bonuses, tickets on the web store for extra items. I saw this during Go Wild Area, right? Where Go Wild Area had the ticket to get in the event itself, and then if you go on the web store for £2 or like $2 in your currency, you could pay for extra Safari Balls. What? So you could buy a ticket to get another bonus over your ticketed event. So it was a ticket event. And then, don't get me started on the lead-up event to Sinnoh, GoFest, and Wild Area, where they both had 2 to 3 tickets, depending on what you want to do. There's like access raids, access eggs, access wild spawns, for example. That's so many. Just bundle it into one, which they do on the web store for a discounted price, and you maybe get an incubator and a raid pass. No, that is not it. It's getting ridiculous how they're doing that. But yeah, the monetization of tickets, at the end of the day, this is a mobile game. Let's not forget that. But they're doing it in such like a blatant fashion where I remember the outrage that went out over the Galarian Mr. Mime or Galarian Mr. Crime ticket that was used, but now it's just kind of like tickets for just not really worth it. Also, they have like pricing issues in different countries where there was like they had to do like a formal announcement where like one country had it for like £1, other country had it for £2, they had different bonuses. Very bizarre. Okay, this one is more of a recent occurrence, but I've just noticed it, and I really hope it doesn't become a pattern next year. Locking things behind 1-star raids is starting to become so infuriating. Because, if you know, Sinistea debuted recently, and it was only in 1-star raids, alongside 2 lots of Frillish, which means you had a 1 in 3 chance of getting a Sinistea raid if it appeared from a 1-star egg. 1-star eggs are pretty uncommon when you have a Mega Raid or a Mega Legendary at once, where it takes up both slots of the Mega and the Legendary Raid, which we found out the hard way with Costume Dedenne and Cetoddle in raids, where Costume Dedenne had 3 other Pokemon in raids, and Cetoddle also had 3 other Pokemon in raids. Now, albeit the Costume Dedenne did have some like cool other Pokemon in that mix, but if you're hunting Dedenne, good luck. I was in the city for probably about 7 hours and I saw 2 Dedenne, because the rest were just taken up by either non-1-star eggs or just 1-star eggs that aren't even the right one. For Cetoddle, they're useless Pokemon. It was Cetoddle and then a bunch of useless Pokemon. It had Litwick, Galarian Darumaka, and Alolan Vulpix. Why? Those aren't event Pokemon. Those aren't costume Pokemon. I get they're snowy, I get they're part of the December theme, but why advertise the event as the main thing? Oh, Cetoddle's in raids and shiny boosted. Why do that and then decide to put it out in this egg of with a 1 in 4 chance when you eventually get the egg? I was in the town for 8 hours, and I saw a total, I remember this exclusively, I saw 5 1-star eggs, for only 5. and one of them were a Sotodle. So I ended up doing one in-person Sotodle raid, which kind of like breeds the need to get more remote raids, right? So then you try and use your remote raids, but you've only got 5 remote raid passes. So it's really weird what events they decide to select the remote raid pass limit to increase your raid passes. Very, very bizarre. Yeah, flooded raids, massive issue. I really hope that I fix it in 2025 because the New Year's event literally just ended for me. That's a shame I didn't get any more shinies. I did just get a Wurmple though, that's quite nice. But they had the costume Pikachu in 1-star raids, and it's the only thing in 1-star raids. Why didn't they do that in the previous ones? Who knows? Maybe they want to increase the rarity or something for trading, or like the trading market. Very bizarre. I would go through, another feature, very bad this year, eggs. Egg events. Oh my goodness, they love eggs. Niantic loves eggs. Let's just start with, I don't know, Galarian Corsola. That was in eggs with horrific shiny odds. It's just crazy, man. The amount of egg-based events that we're getting now, they kind of assume for you to have incubators. Like, I'd rather have a hatch day over an incense day, that's for sure, because incense days are so bad. But yeah, overall, this year has been... It's been very different for Pokemon Go. I'm not saying it's good, not saying it's bad. I don't want to sit in the middle, but I think if I could say an opinion, I think it was a controversial year. Because you had amazing ups and then horrific downs. So like on one side you get yourself adventure effect, one side you get adventure effects, and then the other side you get, I don't know, avatar updates, awful. One side you get the best April Fool's update ever, and then down you get Gigantamax, and then you get Zarude, and then you get spoofing, and then you get Dynamax, and then you get forgettable events, and then you get, I don't know, wild area with mighty Pokemon. Don't even mention mighty Pokemon, that was a great feature. And then you get more tickets and, I don't know, exploits and locking things behind raids and flooded raids. It gets a bit ridiculous, but if you've watched all the way to the end, make sure to put a, I don't know, put a pancake emoji in your comment and I'll heart it. But you guys are amazing. Thank you for staying all the way to the end, and subscribe. Love you guys.